my mother, who was, to be fair, exceptionally patient, one day said to me, right, if you haven't got a job by the end of the week, you've got to go. Actually, every single step of every decision, right or wrong, is why I am sat here in this moment in my life.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change that. I think you can't dwell on what's happened. You've just got to focus on learning from it and using it to push you forward.
Hello, I'm Nicole and welcome to the Big Chat. And today I'm very, very excited to be talking to a fabulous man that goes by the name of Ed Tranter. Ed Tranter from 73 Media. We're going to hear all about that right now. Hello, Ed.
Hi.
Hi.
I just really wanted to do that because
I
do, because this is the closest I'll ever get to having my own radio show where I can do not available in the shops.
You've sussed it now. That's
nice.
all I want. It's my own radio show, basically.
Exactly.
How are you?
I'm radiantly well.
You
Thank
look
very
radiant.
much. Yes, well, that's what lack of sleep and then just kind of going, okay, pick up, come on, there we go. Hi. Yes, we got lots on at the moment, so lots of late nights going on. So yes, all a bit frantic, but really good. But yeah, so very positive.
You are always very positive.
I'll try my best.
Tell everyone about, first off, we'll stick to, you're doing a lot. So we'll cover what you're doing right now, how we've introduced you. Tell everyone about 73 Media in a nutshell.
73 Media in a nutshell. So I started 73 Media as a kind of an events agency and organiser back in 2018. Our second full year of trading as an events company was 2020. Perfect timing. Because it was unencumbered by things like events and crowds of people. So that's brilliant news when you're running an events company. So basically what we do is we operate across really three kind of vertical parts of our business. So one is what we call 73 Originals, which is our own events that we have created from concept and then we deliver them throughout. So we have a couple of large-scale consumer exhibitions. So one is the Rugby Show, which is all about rugby, because I quite like rugby, as everyone knows. I do quite like rugby. Come on, you wasps. And then the other one is the One Earth Show, which is all about sustainable living for consumers, how to make that change and that difference. Then we go on to, I guess, the biggest part of our business, which is managed by 73, which is where we might take a company, if they've never done events before, we take them through from concept, research, design, delivery, the full gamut, through to some cases we work with large-scale event organisers where we're helping them deliver virtual events, hybrid events, physical events. We do them internationally. We're just about to do one in Miami, which is very exciting. And so that's running events for other people. So effectively we become, their events team.
Yeah.
And then the other part is called Front Row Seat, which is more of a kind of think of it like a corporate experience type thing. So instead of taking people for a box of 10 to a football match or something, we create a bespoke experience, similar numbers where it might be sportsmen or it's money can't buy experiences. So it's creating experiences that leave lasting memories is what we say. So we work across all those different things.
It's quite a lot.
It is quite a lot.
So you are a local.
I am.
You are a local.
I've been here since I was 3.5.
That's pretty local.
It is.
I've kind of picked you to the post. I was literally born here, but no, 3.5. Where were you before you were 3.5?
Rugby. I was born in rugby. Oh yes, you can't get much more commitment for the sport than actually being born in the town.
Brilliant.
Oh yes, come on.
So you were born in Rugby, moved to Tunbridge Wells?
Yes, I moved to Tunbridge Wells. Well, I think I was actually just about 4. So my parents split up and we moved down. My mother was quite young. And we moved to live with her aunt and uncle who lived in Tunbridge Wells. So yes, I went to Bishopsdown County Primary, then Skinners, Floriatzo Dalitas, and then been here ever since.
And then the rest is... So what happened after Skinners? Let's not talk about what happened at Skinners.
Let's really not dwell on it. I think I do still have the record. I think it was 46 detentions in my first year. And 13 Saturdays. It turned out I did not respond well to authority.
We're not advising people to have detentions. That does not make you successful in business.
Stay in school. Just say no. So yes, I just didn't respond well. And I think obviously parents breaking up and all that sort of stuff, it kind of messes with you a bit. But But it wasn't for me. So I came out of school with an E and a D at A-level, so I could spell my own name with my qualifications, which I thought was a win, frankly. Not many people can do that. Just saying. So we did that, and then I took on a very serious attempt to stay up till 4 a.m. with my mates every day of the week, and then sleep till 3 p.m. And then my mother, who was, to be fair, exceptionally patient, one day said to me, right, if you haven't got a job by the end of the week, you've got to go.
She gave you a week.
She did give me a week.
That was really generous.
So like on day 5, I love a deadline, I went out, and so I went to the local recruitment consultants because I didn't know really what to do other than I needed a job. So I went to like Floss and all those sorts of things. And I sat down in this room with them, and I was like, chat. And this lady said, have you ever thought about sales? And I said, I'd rather die than do that. And they said, at the time, well, the basic salary is $9,500. And I said, it's always been an ambition of mine to do sales. And so I went off, and anyway, it was a company called Miller Freeman, who were like a publishing company.
Miller Freeman, yeah.
Who were based in Tunbridge. And so I went along, and they misread the CV, or the form that went through was misread or something. It was a graduate interview, and of course I hadn't gone to university. So I rocked up, and they said, well, you're here now, you might as well crack on. So and then chat my way through. And then at the end, this very intimidating lady called Val Camp basically said, sell me, chucked a rock on the table and said, sell me that. And the person, so she was there with this other person, and so this lady was pregnant and had a picture on the back wall, which was her husband and I think 3 sons. And I said, before we got into this fabulous rock, can I just check, is that your family on the back wall? And she said, yes, it is. And I said, well, obviously, so you're expecting it's very exciting, and like anyone, it's 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, you don't really care. But would I be right in thinking that if you could, 3 boys, house full of men, you'd probably quite like a girl this time? And she goes, but it'd be fabulous. And I said, well, this rock guarantees the sex of your baby. Would you like it?
Oh, he's so he's smooth.
And so she said, well, think about it, because everyone else is graduates and you might struggle. Thank you. So she said, but let me know. So I then shut the door, walked over to the desk where her PA was, and it had one of those Squawk Box intercom things, and I pressed the button. She answered, and I said, yeah, I've thought about it, I'll take it.
Brilliant.
And then that was that. And I just kind of fell into media publishing, really.
Yeah.
So found I quite liked it. I liked the selling, I liked chatting, I liked meeting people. And then over a period of years, did lots of publishing, went to London.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where everything really cemented itself. And I ran a weekly publication called New Media Rage, which was all about the digital.com industry.
I think I remember that.
Which was very cool. I remember my first client meeting at that, and I rocked up to a company called Curb, and I'd come from a more business B2B title, so I was in a suit, went to their office in Brighton, and obviously all the new media people it was like Brighton, Clerkenwell, Hoxton, and so I wasn't prepared for it at all. So I walked in, and they were all like chains, board shorts, skateboards, kind of giving it all this. And it was just like, excellent. I feel like their bank manager turning up. So I said, I'm looking for Jim, and this guy skateboarded up to me, said, all right, mate, yeah, that's me. And I was just like, well, hi. I'm from New Media Rage. He went, no, you're not. You're from a bank. I was just like, right, excellent. And we had this meeting, and then it was on a Friday afternoon, and suddenly at 3:00 this buzzer went off in their office. I was just like, what's going on? And I was in full, this is a great opportunity. I was in full flow by the stage, and they stopped everything, started moving all the desks and stuff around, and noticed these tape marks along this big open kind of office. And I said, what are you doing? He said, it's 3:00 on a Friday at 3:00. We try and see who can skateboard the furthest down on 2 wheels the length of the building.
But you love that.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
It was funny back then, though, wasn't it? Because, back then, like it was such a long time ago, but we're talking a couple of decades ago.
Let's not dwell on it.
But what I'm saying is that sort of suited and booted, it was different then, because I remember when I was in the city, I was wearing suits. We were wearing suits, And actually, the more senior the position, you would wear a suit. Now it's actually the other way around. You sort of the more. I mean, it's just open for everyone, which is great. Thank goodness we've got over all of that. But there was a time. Do you know what I mean?
Massively. Well,
I remember I went to work at ID magazine, and I was literally like turned up in a suit, and they all used to take the mickey out of me because I turned up in my little caramellin suit, and they're all like, "We're ID. We wear jeans."
Freestyling.
Yeah, exactly. A bit like that. And, you know, an EMAP and all those kind of guys. It was not like that.
Centaur I worked for, which is where New Media Age was. And I guess my big break. So there's a guy who was really my mentor, was a guy called Graham Sherrin, who set up Centaur. And he was like proper old school. So huge Cuban cigars, swept back hair.
Brilliant.
Sort of, I mean, I guess he's in his 80s now. And you go, the tall man, lovely to see you. And it was just like publishing from the sort of 70s and 80s, properly old school. But he was so switched on. Yeah. Very, very successful guy. And everybody would be very, yes, you know, sort of lots of deferential. Yeah. And being quite gobby, I wasn't. So on one occasion we were in this boardroom for a presentation, and he was talking about the challenges of finance and, you know, the value of £10 and how difficult it was. And bearing in mind the bloke had a huge house in Eaton Square, a manor in Somerset, and houses, and a huge house in Jamaica, and was worth gazillions. You know, everyone was going, it is so tough. And I was like, what? So I took 10 quid out of my wallet and said, Graham, I had no idea times were so hard, and handed him a tenner. I said, pay me back when you can. And everyone looked at me like I was like, oh my word, what have you done?
You're so naughty.
Career suicide. And he loved it.
Of course,
he loved it. So, so the main title for Centaur was Marketing Week. And he gave me the job to be publisher of Marketing Week, and I was 28, 29, so it was a huge deal to get that age. And his only criteria for me taking it, or being given the job and being accepted for the role, was if I took my earrings out. He said, the pig rings, Ed, they've got to go.
Oh, God.
I was just like, right. I said,
and did you?
Not a problem, Graham. Yeah, for that amount of money at 28, you got to be joking. I was all over it. I was like, yay. You
could always put them back in at weekends.
Exactly.
It's not permanent. But it is that whole sort of setup was very, very different then, wasn't it? Like you say, with the earrings, it was very... I can remember, you know, I have tattoos, and they were always... They've got, as I've got older, they've become slightly more obvious to the you know, naked eye, that everyone can see them. But at the time, I used to sort of hide them pretty well. And I can remember one of my publishers being like, what, you've got tattoos? Like, totally in shock, because normally I was just tottering around in my heels and my, you know, mini skirts and my little suits and things. And then tattoos was just unheard of. And I much prefer it now, the way that we can be a bit more... just who we are in everyday life.
It's still sector dependent.
It is sector dependent.
You know, I mean, one of my best friends works in the city, in kind of reinsurance and markets and stuff like that, and they still look slightly askance if someone wears brown shoes with a dark suit. So, I think their tattoos and earrings are still a long way.
Still a little way off.
Still a long way off, I think.
So when you became a publisher, like you say, at 28, that is really young, and yeah, obviously you got a big break, but that's because of how well you were doing, how good you were at your job. What was the difference from that, of going from sales, because you kind of walked into a sales job, and then you're being... I mean, there's a lot of organisation going in that.
Yeah, I think...
Because publisher doesn't mean just publishing.
No, it's you are kind of overseeing the strategy and the direction of every part of it. But actually, I think when I started out going into sales, it was, you know, you have targets and you have to hit certain things and so on. But actually, I always had a broader vision, because I always thought, well, the sales would be better if we did this, this and this. And I was always one for ideas. I like ideas. Yeah. I'd consider myself, I guess, to be reasonably creative. And so, you know, so lots of things around that. And so so the path was, you know, it was like sales exec, ad manager, ad director, associate publisher, publisher of New Media Age, and then straight into publisher of Marketing Week. But I got a taste for events during that period. Yeah. So I launched the online marketing show. Yeah. Back in the day, when you know, when people online
when people
marketing,
weren't online.
Well, when there was still AEO and Yahoo and Yahoo and stuff, AOL rather. And so we were going through all those different things, and I really liked it. And then I moved from Centaur to a company called Informa. Yeah. Who are now the biggest events company in the world. No thanks to me. So I worked for them for a few years, and I worked on Mobile World Congress and the kind of their mobile series, running all the publishing side and doing on-site TV and doing all these things and working alongside the events team and being with them in those projects. And it was amazing, but at the same time I was all over the world, which was very cool in some respects. But then when you've got a young family, I was also all over the world, which wasn't ideal. So after a couple of years, I decided to knock that on the head and joined and tried to find somewhere local. So I joined this publishing company in Dartford, which was called Finley Publications, which was all about engineering and manufacturing. So I did. So I went and joined them as publishing director or something like that, group publishing, I can't remember, but something like that, to help with their kind of growth and strategy. And that was in 2008. And they had a final salary pension scheme invested in Lehman's and various other people, which obviously went pop in the financial crash. So I managed to join a company that went bust like 3 months after I joined it. So I did really well there. And then myself and a couple of other people borrowed £1 million, bought the company from the administrators, set up Finley Media, and just transformed it. I mean, we had a fabulous team of people, lots of change, lots of innovation. We had to do lots of things simultaneously, built some very successful exhibitions, and then we sold that to the Mark Allen Group in 2014, end of 2013, early 2014. And I stayed with Mark Allen for a few years as part of my term of indentured service, as part of the buyout, obviously, and then stayed there for a bit longer because I really enjoyed it. And one of the things they asked me to do was set up an events business, so I launched MA Exhibitions for them. And when we left, it was around 17 million turnover about 4 years later, with events on 4 continents. And then I set up 73 and then ended up here in Greenbridge. And that's my entire career.
And the rest is history.
And that's it. I'm done.
That's it.
This
Chat's
is the pinnacle.
over.
I'm out. That's it. If I could take that mic off, I'd drop it at this point.
I think I'm disappointed you didn't bring a guitar, to be fair, Ed. I was hoping you'd bring a guitar in, but we'll talk about that later. I can still go and get one. I only live in the next village. You've got a spare one in the back of the car. Rewind a little bit to because I it's interesting. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, it's very interesting because I stopped working in London for family, actually. It's similar to you, that I'm not going all over the world, but I was working in London. And actually my husband at the time was like, I've had enough of these late nights, and it was before children, but it was all very much around that time, family and wanting to do something that brought me locally, same as you. What I didn't do was borrow £1 million after the company had gone bust. The company hasn't gone bust, it's still going very well nicely. But what I didn't do is borrow £1 million with my colleagues and go, I mean, that's a bold thing to do.
Yeah,
Tell us a bit about that. I'm sure people would be interested to hear. You made it sound very, very snappy.
Yeah, it was basically as simple as that.
Just in the day, just
that, yeah.
Popped out and,
Well, I think, I was... So the then CEO of the company that had gone under, a guy called Peter, was very passionate about the sector, really knowledgeable about the sector. And he just said, look, we have an opportunity here. So either you can, because I could have gone back to London and got another job up in London, but I really didn't want to. I wanted to, and it just felt right. And everything I've ever done, you can see yourself doing it or not see yourself doing it. And I just thought, do you know what? It doesn't hurt. Let's see where we get to. Let's go for it. And and obviously the potential rewards when you've bought the company and therefore you own it is that our aim was pay the money back, turn it round, build it up, and then sell it. Yeah, which is what we did. So that was kind of eyes on the prize. But also there was a large group of really, really good people. Yeah,
you did have some great people,
and it was very scary for all of them. It was I tell you what, it's not when you get the administrators in to a company and you're sat there talking to them, and they've got a job to do, and I totally get that. But alongside traffic wardens, they're probably the people with the least amount of Christmas cards, I would think, on the planet. And so they've got a job to do. They do very well out of it, but it is ruthlessly lines through things. Length of set. People do not. It's lines on a spreadsheet because they've been told maximise the return for the companies that are owed money, and that was quite an upsetting experience to go through, and made us just more determined to succeed, because lots of people came in because the data was really, really strong. So lots of people just wanted to buy component bits, but we wanted to buy everything, all the people, everything. So in fact, when we borrowed the money, we borrowed additional money to make sure that every freelancer, every small company, everyone we worked with, because when you effectively what we did was a pre-packed Phoenix, because it was the existing business coming up. So it's that classic A1 builders becomes A2 builders. But the law is there to protect businesses that are viable and who, through no fault of their own, gets shafted, which is what happened. So, but we wanted it to be not an excuse to wipe away debts that we owed people because we could legally get out of it. We wanted to be better than that. And so we agreed that, HMRC didn't get their money, I won't lie, but I feel slightly less bad about that. But all of our suppliers and all of the freelancers and everyone we work with, we then continued to work with for the following years, because we borrowed enough to pay all of them as well.
That's great.
And so from there, it was just, how can we change the business? How can we change the way we look at things? We in the first year, we rebranded and redesigned every single publication over the same summer period and got everyone out. And I think we had something like 400 face-to-face meetings in a 3-month period between everybody. It was just trying to energise and excite people. And then we launched exhibitions, and that really built the business up again. And it took us longer than we expected, because effectively we bought a media company at the start of the 2009 recession, which is a classic time to invest heavily in print publishing.
But look how it went.
But then it did go really well, and we created lots of stuff along the way and got a really positive team, and then we sold it, as I say, to the Mark Allen Group for a substantial sum, which was very nice for everybody.
And is that something that, at the time, like you say, there was arguably it could have been a slightly scary time to do something. Was there times in that you thought, oh my God, what am I doing? Or do you, because you are very positive. I've had a few one-to-one coaching sessions with you. I know exactly how good this man's heart is and how positive you are. But have you always had that sort of, you're very, you're determined. You're very determined.
Yes, I am. I think if you've got the right people. And the right plan, and you've thought it through, and you are fully committed to it, then most things are achievable.
I think you're right.
And so my expectation is, I guess the way I look at it is, if you enter into something, it's because it can be done, and you've planned out who you need to work with you to get it done. And then if at the end of that process it doesn't work out how you expected, it's not a question of, we could have done something different. You leave it all out in the field so that you're confident in the knowledge that if you haven't managed to do it, it's because it's impossible. And so far, I haven't really come across anything that's impossible. There are things that haven't worked or haven't lasted as long as I wanted them to, or I think the whole of everybody's life, if I look back at my life from where I started to where I am now, there's loads of things that arguably people would go back and change. Things that you've done wrong or did it in a way that you just think, oh, what a prat. But actually, every single step of every decision, right or wrong, is why I am sat here in this moment in my life. And I wouldn't change that. So I think you can't dwell on what's happened. You've just got to focus on learning from it and using it to push you forward.
Definitely. And I think that actually, like you say, with planning as well, and also just making decisions. We were talking to another guest, and they were saying about just making decisions that often if you start to sort of what ifs and, what if...
Well, if you don't start, you're definitely not going to do it.
Exactly.
So, and I think you can... It's important to research things. It's important to plan things. I'm a big believer in, particularly with large-scale events, I'm a big believer in you've got to get institutional support. You've got to get a plan in place. You've got to know your roadmap and have asked the question. It can't just be made up on your own talking to a mirror. But by the same token, you can plan and plan and plan and plan and plan and plan and plan forever and never actually start anything. And it's about weighing up what's the worst that can possibly happen.
Absolutely.
So we've launched lots of things and done lots of things over the years, both personally and for businesses I've worked with or run for other people. And not everything works, but if we'd taken the attitude of not trying, then none of it ever would have happened.
No.
And those businesses wouldn't have grown and wouldn't have existed. And, and you just got to go for it.
You've got to go for it. And also support, I think support network, you've got a beautiful family, supportive family, haven't you?
Yes.
You've got 3 children?
Yes, indeed. Yes. So Toby's 15 and so therefore is in for, oh, Dad, you're such a butthead.
He's going to love you for doing that.
Yeah, well, he's not going to watch this, is he?
Let's hope not.
Oh, video with my daddy. Yeah, Doondy, as I am known to the children, Doondy. So, and then Freya, who is going to be 13 next month. Mm-hmm. And then Molly Pop is 10, and she will not like me calling her Molly Pop on air. So Molly is 10 and will be 11 in September. So, yeah, they're amazing and love them to bits, and they're all very much characters. And
can't see where they would get that from.
It's Ali, actually. It's nothing to do with me.
All
I'm
your
the quiet
wife.
one. I'm the
all
quiet
Ali.
one.
And you have a lot of animals.
We do have a.
I had to bring that up just as we were going there for a minute. We'll get back to business, but you do like it. How many at one point?
We had 17 pets, I think it was, at one point.
17 pets.
So, but now we just brought in a new flock of rescue hens at the weekend, which was amazing. So it's just been sat in the chicken run with them whilst they're acclimatising. They're not allowed out for the first couple of weeks.
I can't see you sitting in a chicken run.
I love it.
Physically, you're quite tall. How tall are you, Ed?
I'm 6'8".
Yes, that's quite.
But I've made one tall. That I can stand up in.
Have you? Of course you have.
So I just sit in there with them. It's great fun, and you get them to eat out of your hand. But for the first 2 weeks, you can't let them out because they need to know where home is, and it takes them that length of time. So you lock them in. So it's even things like in the night at the moment, I'm having to go and get them and lift them off the roof or off logs and put them in the chicken coop to go to sleep because otherwise they can't work it out on their own. You've got to love chickens. Yes, yeah. So good.
I've got a Dachshund that doesn't want to go up steps anymore. He's decided not, and he just barks at me. He just orders me to sort of lift him, but he does give me direction. I don't suppose a chicken can do that so well.
Well, I wouldn't class myself as a chicken whisperer, so I'm not sure I can tell you that.
But you must have a lot of patience because you've got a big family. You've got a big extended family with all your animals. You're very, very busy at work. You care about people a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
You've got a great team at 73 Media.
Yeah, I've got an amazing team.
When you left, or when you decided that you were going to go and set up on your own, is that something you always wanted to do? I mean, obviously you did that before when you bought out Finlay Media, but with 73 Media, talk to us a bit about how that all came about, and then we'll talk about lockdown.
I think for me, it is very different. So, because Finlay's was, to a certain degree, you're in the right place at the right time. You've got the right relevant experience, and somebody needs your skill set to match theirs in order to take this idea and run with it. So from that perspective, we were buying a business that already had several million turnover. It didn't have a lot of profit.
Yeah.
But it had a bedrock, and it had solid products that had been established for years. It had a fabulous group of people working on it.
Yeah.
So then you're kind of turning something around.
Yeah.
Which I think in many ways is a lot easier than, right, I've got a piece of paper, what shall I call it? I'm going to put my IQ, 73 Media, and then right, what's our business going to be? And so that is very different, but it's very exciting. So I've always wanted to set up a business where it was, this is how I wished companies had been. I've liked everywhere I've worked for the most part. You get, obviously, people are people, and so you get some people that are really challenging and some that are really great, and I'm sure that I will fit in both categories for different people I've worked with. But actually, this is really exciting for me because we can do the things that I've always wanted to do, have that balance of life, be there for my family. But by nature, I'm not a 9-to-5 kind of person. I just have lots of ideas, and I want to do them, and I want to do them when I want to do them. So it's about meshing those things together. So for me, 73 was always the opportunity to do that. And, we're knocking on 3 years going now, which on the back of the last 12 to 14 months, was touch and go at times.
Absolutely.
But really good.
And you are doing amazing. And I mean, so talk about lockdown a bit. I mean, obviously as we're recording this now, we're in May, and this is probably going to come out in June. I mean, we're getting a bit out of things. Events are starting to happen. But let's go back to at the beginning of lockdown. You've set up your business.
Yeah.
You're managing to put all your energy into how you want things to be.
Got a great team of people.
Got a great team of people. You were flying. You were going really well. And then lockdown happened.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously no one saw it coming.
We all have that reaction, we're like...
No one saw it coming.
No.
And obviously, if you're running an events company and no one's allowed to gather at all and all venues are shut, it makes it, more challenging than when they're all open and people are allowed to gather.
Yeah.
So I was like an events company that was unencumbered by having to run events. And when it's your only revenue stream, it becomes a bit more exciting. So I mean, funnily enough, so I was, on March the 18th, 2020, I was in Miami on a site visit for a client event. On March the 20th, I was at Miami airport desperately trying to get a plane back to the UK. And then March the 23rd, we went into lockdown. So, and at that point, we had loads of client events planned. We were running lots of things for other people. The rugby show was going out in the first week of June. The One Earth show was going out in the first week of October, or second week of October. Everything was, going in great guns. We had all this new business coming through. Our second full year of trading was going to be an absolute monster. By the end of April, we had lost £860,000 worth of business, which is quite a lot. We're only a small business, and so that was significant.
Yeah.
There was no end in sight. We were losing money. I stopped paying myself in order to protect the staff. We had 3 people that started on the 1st of March, and furlough only qualified if you started by the 28th of February. It was just a perfect storm of things going wrong.
Yeah.
And it was no one's fault. It wasn't my fault, wasn't the business's fault, wasn't anything we were doing. It was just a global pandemic, and no one can plan for that. So we tried to map a way through it. And so I did my initial... So I'm reasonably optimistic, but like anybody, you have your dark days and everything else. So there was, I won't lie, a period of curled up in a ball under my desk, rocking back and forth, sucking my thumb and crying as I was just going, what the hell am I going to do about this? And had no earthly idea. And then we looked at other opportunities, and I was just like, right. So I said to the team, we are currently strapped to we're forced to lie on a railway track. And this one, we can see the train. It's 100% coming this way. So if we don't do anything, and this goes on forever, or for a year or 6 months, then we won't survive it, because I can't keep paying everybody with literally nothing coming in. So therefore, the other option is we jump on that train track over there, which is learning how to do virtual events, and I'll invest a ton of money in kit and training and everything else, and we'll give that a whirl, and we'll go all in on that, which might accelerate our demise, but at least we don't know for certain that there's a train coming on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we did. So we changed the rugby show into a virtual event. We learned how to do virtual events. We did it with a 4-week notice from start to finish. We had the program in place with 2 weeks to go, marketed it, and we had 3,000 attendees. We did 2 stages, 3 days, 65 speakers, 95% live to camera. Was our first attempt at a virtual event. So it was kind of like death or glory. And that opened a lot of doors. So we then started moving into doing a lot of virtual events. We continued to learn and develop and grow. And then, so effectively our transformation into a virtual events agency for the time being led us to coming through the year with a small profit, as opposed to at one point I was looking at 40 grand a month loss.
Yeah.
Which is, when it's your own money, and just in case anyone's unsure, I don't have £40,000 a month lying about.
I know, exactly.
Say, I only have 40 grand.
I know. Yeah.
So that was,
It hurts, because I think there's sometimes I don't know, not everybody, but unless you've got your own business, people sometimes think that the business is not you.
Yeah.
It's like the expenses is not you. It's
we
the
were
business
talking. We were
is you.
seriously talking at times during the course of it. Where we need to sell our house and or can I get another job? And trying to get a job in the events industry in 2020 wasn't going to happen. So and that wasn't. We had to talk about the ramifications of what if the worst happens.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
But we made we had some really tough decisions that, and so some people, we had to let go of some people. One of my best friends worked for us and I had to let him go. And that is, I think actually, I would say that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in business in a 20 plus year career. Yeah. Because they were brilliant, doing a great job, but everything they were doing wasn't happening anymore. And I couldn't afford
to keep it.
Yeah. And everyone else took pay cuts, and I tried where possible to help people find other jobs, which everybody did, which is great. But it's horrendous. It was really dark times. But at the same time, we've come through it. We've learned a lot. We've been able to do some amazing stuff. Yeah. We've ended up being, so we're now because I don't know if I mentioned, I like rugby. Yeah. You
haven't mentioned rugby enough, and you haven't mentioned awards enough.
Did I? Awards? Oh, those things.
I thought you were going to bring in your.
Yeah, so I've got them permanently strapped to the inside of my jacket.
Brilliant! I would have loved that. Next time.
But but with the rugby thing, for example, we learned a lot and developed a lot, and actually we are now official virtual event suppliers to Wasps Rugby. So we're the first contractor to have that happen with a Premiership rugby club, which has been amazing. In fact, we're doing an event for them and Vodafone and Dell on the 19th of May, and that's been really great. We've done events we've been working with Caterpillar, we've done events for charities, we've done events for large corporates, we've done events for other event organisers, which has been cool. We've done events for associations, and what's been really fun is a lot of people. The challenge is learning all the virtual stuff, is you've got to have a really open mind, because a lot of them, people were taking what they'd done physically, dropping it in online and assuming it would work the same way. Well, if you're at an awards do, we all know that 90% of going to an awards do is going on the lash with your mates and your colleagues, dressing up, and just generally being at a party and paying attention to the categories you are nominated in and nothing else.
Really? I thought everyone listened to everything.
And then the after party, and that's what an awards do is really. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's brilliant, and I think they're really important. But if you're trying to do an awards online where the audience isn't there, then actually all you're left with fundamentally is the reading of categories, which can be, frankly, pretty tedious. Yeah. But it's thinking creatively, using technology and ways of doing that. And we were able to do things like we did an awards do for an organisation just recently where we had 2,500 attendees from 36 countries. And they stayed on. 94% of them stayed online for the full 3 hours of the event, and we had after party rooms and this, that, and the other. And actually, when we had overextended the event, we said, right, we're shutting it off now. There were still 350 people in the DJ room. And the chat on that, because we record all the chats. Some of the chat, it got to a point where people were chatting each other. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. There's a book in that which I couldn't possibly produce. And it's one of those ones published at the time of my death.
You've got some dangerous material. You need to be aware of these things.
And as you say, we won a few.
You've won a few awards.
Well, we've won some awards and we've been nominated for some awards, which has been amazing.
And, and also it's great what you've been doing. You've been helping Tailor-Made Dreams. Yep. You've been doing some events for them this year, haven't you? And the other things that you've been doing, because you do a lot of charity work, and that's you do personally, don't you? You do a lot of support with some of the food banks as well. Yes.
So one of the founding principles that I wrote down when I had my blank piece of paper with 73 Media written on the top of it was wanting to do something that actually made a difference. Because when you travel, I mean, I've worked on events in 44 countries on 5 continents, And what you find is that you go to these events and it is get off a plane, a car or a nice cab is waiting to take you to your 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
And then the venue's all sumptuous luxury and everything is about experience and the best thing possible. And you don't have to go far in any location to walk from sumptuous luxury to abject poverty in the same place.
Absolutely.
And I find it, I can't ignore things like that, and rightly so. I don't think we should ignore things like that. So I think we all have a responsibility to do whatever we feel prompted to do. And so I've always personally, and as a family, we've always tried to do what we can. But I thought, now I've got this business, so we committed to putting 20% of our profit every year into good works, basically charitable works. So either working with grassroots organisations in the cities where we're doing the projects, or industry-related charities alongside whatever topic we're covering as an event subject. And so this year, obviously, there hasn't been very much profit to do that. But also, my team buy into that.
Yeah, that's really important.
So we've talked about, moral compass and where we're about. And everyone, for the most part, has got families. They have that balance. So the not working together and not being physically together actually hasn't been a problem, because we've kind of always operated like that. But it's about doing something you can believe in and making a difference where you can see the opportunity to make a difference. So I said, right, we're not going to make a lot of money, but I think we should be doing things for charity where virtual is an opportunity. So I'd been put in touch with Tailor-Made Dreams because one of the children so Tailor-Made Dreams, in case anyone doesn't know, is a charity that kind of provides once in a lifetime moments, bucket list moments for children who have life limiting illnesses. And so, significantly poorly kids. And in the setup that we've got with COVID, of course, they're at the highest possible level of isolation. Yeah. And also, in some cases, while we're all going, well, when everything gets back to normal, well, not everybody has that length of time.
No, they don't.
So they were doing these experiences, and I was put in touch because Susie Mitchell, who founded it, whose son Taylor is Taylor of Tailor-Made Dreams, had basically approached me because she had one of the children like rugby. Great choice. And wanted somebody that might be able to introduce him to a famous rugby player. And I know a few rugby players. Yeah. So that's how it started. And then we, quickly chatting, I said, well, actually, we could do much more for you here. Yeah. Why don't we do this virtually? We will create a virtual environment for you. We will use the platform. We will cover all the costs. We will then set it up with a separate Tailor-Made Dreams background, and we will introduce them, manage it all on the day, and then have these one-to-one experiences where we do them in a video environment, so in a virtual platform where the family can all join in to be the audience. It's all closed so no one else can access it. Then we produce it as a video afterwards that the child can then treasure and then the family can cherish the memory of. And so and then we got her on Radio Kent talking about that, and it's been brilliant. So the first one we did was a young lady who wanted to be an astronaut and was so knowledgeable about space. It was incredible. And we'd just done another charity event for schools for the John Egging Trust. And so we did the same thing. We did 2 events for them for free just before Christmas. And these were with Professor Brian Cox and Harv Smith, who is Air Vice Marshal Harv Smith, Director of Space for the UK. And it's just, man's a legend. I mean, absolute. It was watching him and Brian Cox chatting. I don't know who was geeking out more about the other. It was the ultimate bromance. So we got Harv Smith to do a surprise one-to-one session, and from that he has gone on and made sure she's enrolled in Air Cadets even though she can't go, and he's helping her with the Space Cadet program. It was amazing. Yeah. So, but the mental health and positive impact on me and the team when we're going through really difficult situations, trying to keep the business and grow and adapt, actually those things are so valuable. So we give everyone gets time off in the month out of their working week to make sure that they can go and volunteer on a project if they want to.
That's great.
Whether it's shopping for neighbours or helping in a food bank. We use the company pickup to collect food every week for the St Matt's community larder down in High Brooms.
Yeah.
And so it's just things like that make
So
a huge
important.
difference.
It's so important. I think that's, like you said, you wanted to set up something that really spoke to you about all the things that you wanted. I mean, that's part of you. That's what you, and those are the things that light us up, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, we can all have all the nice things that come with having a business and the responsibility, but actually, you know, I mean, that's for me the soapbox. That's the only reason why I do it, because it's that part. It's wonderful that you do that and you get your team involved. It's very inspiring. I'm sitting here thinking there's more that I should be doing of those things. And I'm sure lots of people listening will be thinking that.
I mean, I think the thing is that it's not. It's certainly in my mind, it's not a competition. It's
of course
about
not.
Everybody.
If everyone does their bit.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things around the One Earth show when we set that up was I wanted it to be open to everybody. So we had a setup where every single person that attends, we planted a tree for every person that attends.
That's amazing.
So that just by turning up, you
You're
have
making
made
a
a difference because
yeah.
not everyone has the resources or the time, and everyone's got their own challenges with lockdown. You know, so many people struggling. In the events industry, actually, the hardest hit, I think, is the suppliers because if there are no events, they can't do anything at all. Whereas at least with event organisers, there's an opportunity to adapt. You might have an established community and you start doing other things to generate income. It's still hard, but it's a lot harder for so many. So
it's so true as well. And we've worked with companies, you know, and sound technicians, all these they've just,
nothing.
Everything just stopped, you know. And
it was a bit of a mixed bag as to what funding and support
people could get. Yeah.
So
So do you see events now getting you've got events planning, obviously all the time you're planning, but do you see events getting back to how they are? Do you think there'll be a mix? Because obviously now you're a master in your own field of virtual events, which is great.
I think, well, to be honest with you, I think
you do a bit of both.
Yeah, you can do it. It's really fun, isn't it? Because everyone's like, you know, virtual event expert. And if we're honest, most people had never even heard of them before May last year.
You've made up a whole sector.
I think it's. I mean, some people have been doing them for years and years and
I
years.
know,
But the reality is, I think virtual event experience has been a bit like dog years in comparison to normal. So I've got a good decade in now.
Yeah.
But so for me, I think virtual events, hybrid events will absolutely be part of the makeup going forward.
Yeah.
I think with, you know, you can't shut Pandora's box once it's been opened, and you know the entire planet pretty much now is used to Zoom and Teams, and that by the way does not constitute an online event. It's much more complicated. I don't just do Zoom meetings.
No, you don't.
But at the same time, people are used to engaging in that kind of technology now, and particularly on the consumer side, but also for things like conferencing, where you can now get a speaker from the other side of the world, and as long as you've planned in their time zone, all they've got to do is give up an hour. It's very different to the kind of programming you can pull together of high-value content, where they don't have to fly all around the world to do it. It also reduces your costs.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to replace... So a very good friend of mine runs consumer events, and he focuses on running, fitness. He's got a ski show, he's got all manner of different things, an outdoor event. So well worth checking out. And they've got one in July at Farnborough, which is the southern edition of the National Running Show. So you can look that up online and check yourself in. But they've got 20,000 people have signed up for that event.
Wow.
And that's in July.
Yeah.
So the demand to get out and do things, I think, is huge. I think we are made for relationship. We're built for connection.
Definitely.
And whilst lockdown would have been much harder without the technology, I think it would have been really, really hard without being able to see people's faces as you talk. I don't think that's the future, 10 hours of video meetings a day.
Please no.
So I think we will have both, and I'm very excited.
I think it's an extra tool. I think we've got extra tools now.
In the same way that magazines didn't die when the internet came along, which everyone said they would.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
But I think yes, as it stands at the moment, officially, the 21st of June is when all limits are removed, and the test events are happening across the country even as we speak. And they're all going really, really well. So I think the government's ambition is that we will end up in a situation possibly through rapid flow testing or something like that, or whatever their criteria will come out with, which will be told to us at the beginning of June. But where it's no limits, no distancing, no masks.
Yeah.
And on the 22nd of June is Confex at XL, which is run by Mash Media, which is the big event for the events industry. So if any team's going to party, it's going to be that one. So that'll be the test. I mean, the thing I think I fear for the first person I hug, is a very real chance I'll never let go. So they could be permanently attached, or have a 6'8", 18 stone man permanently attached to them for months, arguably.
So we need to watch out for you at events, don't we? And what would be your best bit of advice before we sort of say goodbye today to anyone hoping to, go out there and start a business or start a company they've always dreamed of? What's been the thing that's really kept you going on that path?
I think there's a number of things I'd say. One is believe in yourself, because if you don't, there will be bumps in the road. There is no smooth. I mean, I can say, oh, somebody did this, then I got a job there, then I got promoted, then we sold that company. Then, I mean, there was, that's 20 years of
it's a bit of ground
ups, downs, and agony and so on. But so test your ideas.
Yeah.
Get a support group of really, really good people who aren't afraid to say, my word, what a stupid idea that is. It might still be that you do it, because there's loads of people that have done amazing businesses where someone says it was a stupid idea.
Yeah.
So don't be put off by that. But you want people that are not afraid to
honest.
say no to you.
You need honesty around you, yeah.
And I think just go for it.
Yeah.
Seize the day. Because, things can work and they cannot work, and there's loads of those things that you normally see on LinkedIn where it was, this person did this, it failed. They did this, it failed. They did this, it failed. And then they invented the world and they became billionaires. And so there's loads of stuff like that, and it's, do you give up at this point or this point? If you did, then you're not Elon Musk. It's all that kind of stuff that's out there. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's about not being knocked back by the first hurdle. That's where the support group is great, because it doesn't have to be that they understand what your business is about. They have to understand you and how to pick you back up and dust you off when inevitably you get knocked on your arse time and time again, because when you get through it, it is so worth it.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things, if I hadn't done it, I would have always regretted it.
Totally. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's not a dress rehearsal. You don't want regrets any more than we already have over certain things. Ed, I love talking to you. No, I do. I could talk to you for days. It's always a joy to talk to you.
Bless you.
I know you've got lots of things planned that maybe we can't talk about today, but will you come back and chat to us about them?
I'm sure we can make that happen.
Okay, all right. Well, Ed, if people want to find out more about you, the best place to go is 73 Media, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or just Ed Tranter extraordinaire.
I wouldn't. Don't Google search me. There's some damaging stuff out there.
Search for a very tall chicken.
Yes, tall bald man.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Cheers.